That works, Kid Kazma. It is funny. But as you know, I also try and support those of you who are in here all the time. I want to support you, so. And I thought you were just saying that you enjoy having me in the stream. Maybe I took it wrong, but the way I took it was that having me in the stream helps you. Not a problem, Crafting with Ray. So yeah, when you're writing, just think, how would you tell the story to someone else? And then write what you would tell them. That's kind of... And that may be why it's easier for me to write the way I do, is because when my kids were little, we would read a lot of stories together. And my kids would also come up with ideas and whatever else. So it kept that. And I'm the oldest of 8 kids. So even before I had kids, even when I was still in school, I was reading stories to kids and making up stories for kids and talking to kids. And so it just kind of, we would talk about what we thought should happen in in the next story or in the next book or different things like that. And so it became, so that may have made it easier for me to learn to write, because I was doing all the talking that way. And I totally get that on the VODs. Kid Kazma, I'll be honest, I don't have time for VODs. Will do. Let's go add that in right now. So what I'm doing right now, the reason I'm not focused on the game as much, is I am doing... What's your suggestion? How much? Okay, back to Stream Manager. Thank goodness I also have this. Let's see. Exactly, I prefer to chat in real time, and I've got so many. I do have a number of people that I am watching. And so I prioritize by who's in my stream the most. Like, I'll go and see who's in my stream the most. If they jump on, Well, actually, I prioritize number one, family, then who's in my stream the most. So I hate to say it, but if you're conflicting with Steven, you might only get a lurk rather than a actual me interacting. And if my other son starts streaming, which he's thought of, same thing. But otherwise, it's who's in my stream the most and interacting with me, because in my mind, that just means we're friends and we're supporting each other, and friends take second place to, our second. And I appreciate that you think that I'm intellectual. I'm not going to say for sure. I'm not going to say one way or the other. One thing I have learned throughout the years is that there is no real way to gauge how smart someone is. Someone can be the smartest person in the world and score low on tests or on tests. Someone can score high on tests and be some of the most frustrating individuals out there. Exactly. Friends supporting friends. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't make a lot of friends, and maybe, some people prefer to just support their friends, as in just go watch their channels and never stream. I'm not saying everyone needs to stream. And so if you're in here, I'm going to want to continue that continue conversations, etc. with you outside of my channel. And so I'll go catch your channel to continue seeing what's going on with your life and spending time with you and whatever else. Because then you aren't so worried about talking about what's going on in your life on my channel, which please feel free to. I have no problem with that, but at the same time, I know some people are hesitant to do that and prefer to do it on their own stream. And I know sometimes typing it all out can be frustrating. So I totally get that, but exactly. Which actually, as we were talking about things a few days ago, there was something that we said, that we were talking about on your channel. And it was after after the drawing stream. It would have been Thursday, I believe it was. Do you remember what we were talking about that I said I'd have to tell on my stream because there was no way I was going to type it all out? It was Thursday or Friday, but I think it was Thursday night. Because I think I didn't want to type it out because my fingers and my back were hurting from the stream. And I remembered Friday, or I remembered the next. What was it? Because I can't remember what it was. I remember saying it, but I don't remember what the subject was that I was going to say. And I was going to say I remembered what, either Friday or Saturday I remembered, but I couldn't remember what we were talking about. I just remembered I'd told you I'd tell you something on my stream, and then totally couldn't remember what it was. And I don't think you were here anyway. Sorry, hydrating. I'm not sure, but I can go into that. I didn't think it was the recovery, but so because that makes sense. So basically, EDS messes with everything in the body. And at one point, or when I was a teen, I got hypoglycemia, or at least the signs of it. No one could ever figure out why, just knew I had it. And I lived with it for years. And then about 20 years later, my blood sugar started dropping really crazy, and we didn't know how to keep it up. But I could eat a huge high carb, high sugar meal, and my blood sugar would raise for like 5 minutes, and then it would drop back to fasting levels. So I was basically living fasting levels for most of the day, every day. Hit the point where I was struggling to stay awake, the works. And eventually we found out what it was, got things taken care of, and started recovering. Part of PT is so it actually isn't IV vitamins, it's pancreatic enzymes, which actually reminds me, of course, I forgot mine with my breakfast this morning. So thank you for saying something, because that would be a good thing to get in. So basically we found out my body, for some reason, either it isn't digesting or it isn't digesting fast enough anything but protein. Whether it's moving through to, I got breakfast. I just didn't get the medication to break down the breakfast. And so I get the benefit of it. So what happens is my body just can't break down. It either doesn't break it down or it doesn't break it down. What it usually produces in response. So like when a regular person smells food, their body starts producing enzymes in their mouth, and that's what makes you salivate. Mine doesn't produce as much there. Then when you swallow, based on whatever your body can sense what types of foods there are in there, and your pancreas releases enzymes based on that to break it down. Well, my body, for some reason, can't sense it right. Or it moves through too fast. We can't say for sure which one, but whichever it is, we added in enzymes. So we increased the load in my stomach. It wasn't just pre-digesting. I wasn't digesting enough. We added in the enzymes, and my body started rebounding, and my blood sugar actually leveled out, and I didn't have any issues with the hypoglycemia that I'd had for over 20 years. Unless I go and forget it. So, like, if I don't get my enzymes, I get no benefit from the food I eat. Other than, I think, to some degree, I do the protein. But that's all of it. Exactly. So usually what happens is your stomach sends all these enzymes in to break it down. Breaks it down into teeny pieces. And then absorbs it in your gut. Well, it was going into my gut pretty full. Like, pretty much in the same, pretty close to the same manner it left my mouth. So I would either have to chew it so much that it was pure liquid in my mouth each and every bite, which isn't really, I don't think anyone does that. And by pure liquid, I mean pure liquid. Or needed the enzymes. So now, and we didn't think anything of it at the time, but I now, we actually know it was true because, like, and this may sound gross, but bowel movements and farts and stuff like that had absolutely no smell to them for me, ever. No matter what I ate or anything. Well, it might smell like the food, but not the usual smells that you would get. And so, but once I started taking the enzymes, they became more normal. So our assumption is, I've lived that way my whole life to some degree. And I will say, I didn't chew that much because we didn't realize there was a need to. And then by the time we realized, we also knew the solution. And so I eat like any normal person. I'm just pointing out that it's not that I wasn't chewing it enough. It was that to chew it enough in my mouth to not have problems would have had to be so much that it would have been unreasonable to request anyone to do that. So there was that. So we got that under control. Started treating, or let my blood sugars and my body get used to it. And then I started in PT. Well, one thing with PT with EDS, our body takes longer to heal. So when we push our muscles, we can only go just to the point of you feel it when you go to bed. Not painful, but you feel it. You never go to the point of pain. Because when you're in pain, your body's broken down the muscles. Well, if most people are recommended every other day, or 3 days a week to push their muscles to pain. Like, do upper body, and then, or, do your muscle building one day, aerobic the next, muscle building, aerobic every other day for 6 days. Well, with someone with EDS, that would tear down their muscles. But because of that, means it takes longer to build the muscles. Because we can't go to that point, or else our muscles they're broken down, but they don't have time to heal. So it takes longer to build. So I just got back to where I was able to exactly. You have to, and not just plan out what the exercise is going to be, but you have to also take into account everything else you're going to be doing that day. You can't say, okay, I'm going to clean my house and I'm going to go exercise and then I'm going to go for a walk with my friends. Or I'm going to go to the mall, go shopping with my friends, or I'm going to go shopping at the store, or things like that. Because if you deep clean your house, you may use those muscles enough just by deep cleaning your house that when you go to bed, you're sore or on the edge of sore. In fact, just deep cleaning your house at times could do it, depending on how common it is to do things like that. Just going shopping with friends could be enough to push you too far. And you have to be aware of, so with a regular person, and even doctors and the U.S. government and whatever has found that they actually recommend you exercise in 10-minute increments throughout the day. So by the time you've gone to bed, you've gotten your full exercise in. Well, someone with EDS, if you take that into account, if that's going to happen with a regular person, you can see how just going throughout the day could push someone too far by the time it's bedtime. And so you almost have to do your final exercises just before you go to bed, because you need to be prepared if something out of the usual happens. Take last Saturday, for instance. And you didn't get to hear, but I ended up taking my son to the ER because he wasn't feeling well, my oldest son. And I drove around for a couple hours streaming, and then it still took an hour or two after I stopped streaming. But even while I was sitting in the car, the heat relaxing my muscles while they're trying to work really worked it more than they liked. So I actually had to lay down and rest while I was waiting for him. But even then, by the time I got home, I was really tired and kind of sore. I couldn't do anything that I'd planned for the day, anything else, because it would have left me way too sore and broken the muscles down, and then I would have been paying for it for days. So instead, so it can be very hard to build up. And so we were really glad when we'd gotten me to the point where it looked like I could sit long enough that I could try to get a job from home. That I could work full time, but work from home. Part of the reason for working from home was then, if I needed, I could adjust the way I was sitting or things like that to be able to be okay. Plus it would keep me away from other people So in the winter and stuff, if I got sick, I wouldn't have to get up, get ready, then go into work before working a full day, come home, etc., which when you're sick can be even harder and even more taxing on your muscles. But what finally got me to that point, and the day I had my interview scheduled, it was an online interview, but at the same time, it's hard to do an interview when you're sick, was the day I came down with COVID. Yeah, well, so there's that. And then, so during COVID, what happened, and this is very frustrating to me. During COVID, on top of the usual things people complain about, if you listen, some people complain about slight muscle aches. For me, those weren't slight. It was like I had gone and run 2 marathons in a row in every single day for almost the whole time of COVID. And I knew my muscles were breaking down. I could feel it, the way my body was reacting. Each day I was weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. Not because of a lack of food or being able to take in enough energy, but because the muscles were physically breaking down each day. And when I went into my PT once I was better, and I'd been seeing him for over a year at that point, he could feel the difference in just those couple of weeks. My muscles were physically had disappeared a good degree. You know, they had literally been broken down. And so we're now at the point, and that's why sitting up and why I sit on my bed and do what I do. I actually, many times when I'm sitting up, I'm rocking or doing other things at the same time to try to encourage my core muscles to work that much more, with the hope that one day, well, actually now I'm at the point that I hope by fall, I'm at the point my core's strong enough that we can fully start doing the streams. I can start doing streams where we go for walks for a while. I say the fall because fighting the heat with my muscles, I've tried that a couple times and I discussed it with my PT, and we've basically come to that's a no-go. I can walk around my house and things like that, but I'm not supposed to do a lot of walking out in the heat because of what it does to my muscles, and that they aren't strong enough right now to deal with that. So the amount I could do it is so minimal that it isn't appropriate. So and I agree that it would be a nice accommodation, and especially where everyone's kind of proved that you can work from home and still be part of a team and everything. But my family and I have talked about it, and I'm going to focus more on my books, things like that, and not worry about getting a job. Luckily, my husband has a good job, because trying to find something like that I'm not sure it's going to happen. Especially because there's another side effect to that too, and when you're exhausted, many people can relate to this. When you're exhausted, your brain, you can't function as well. You can't focus really study things like that or remember things you're told when you're exhausted. Well, a doctor once told me that EDS is like running a marathon every single day. Yes, your body can adapt to running that marathon every single day, but the chance that you will be able to retain a lot of things while you're doing that is less. Oh yeah, my husband is amazing. And the thing is that's only part of it. It's more, I'll be honest, it's the fact he sees the struggles I've gone through to try and find a job that would work with me, that would understand some of the problems I've gone through, and he's seen those problems. And he's like, it's not fair, but I don't see anything out there. So, yeah. Out of me to do that than to just say forget it and try and do what I can from home and focus on the things I can do and on recovery and everything. If I could get my brain back enough. Another thing I would like to do sometime is I used to do a bit of HTML. I've done HTML coding before. Think it's HTML. Anyway, coding for the web before, which is supposed to be very similar to creating apps. And I have an app in mind that I'd love to do, that I think would be a huge help to people with the chronic illnesses of any kind. Maybe focused more on EDS, but chronic illnesses of any kind. And I've actually talked to my PT about it, and he's on board and willing to help as he can. And that's creating an app that you can, one, use for PT, that it will suggest exercises, how to do them correctly, everything else, because sadly, for people with EDS, most companies will, my husband's insurance is amazing and covers 60 PT or 30 PT and 30 chiropractic visits a year. Most PTs or most insurances cover a max of 6 weeks of PT. And obviously with someone with EDS, 6 weeks of PT, have it such that they could go in once every 2 months, and then their doctor can refer them, their PT can refer them to the app for in between, would be beneficial. Also, some people can't even get PT at all. So being able to have something they could refer to that would help them figure out what they can do to help themselves would be beneficial. So there's one portion of it. Is a PT portion. Another portion of the app that I'd like to do is people with chronic illnesses frequently have a lot of doctors and prescriptions and things to keep track of and everything. So being able to combine a to have a place to keep medical records all together in one place that can then be shared with doctors would be beneficial. Also a place, possibly a journaling portion, where they can literally put how they're feeling. Both with what they've just physically, mentally, and possibly even a dietary component where they can track what they've ate. And then if it starts seeing a correlation between having certain issues and a certain food, it can bring that up, especially because people with EDS are more prone to allergies. At the same time as I thought of that, it would be nice to be able to have an app where someone could go in and quickly input their blood sugars and how much insulin they took and the foods they eat. My husband's had type 1 diabetes for a number of years now. I'm trying to think. I think it's been 4 or 5 years. But he only just realized that he has always misjudged the calories or the carbohydrates in rice. And that whenever he gets rice, he overdoses on his insulin. It's taken him 4 to 5 years. Having an app that said, well, every time you get rice, your blood sugars are low. You're giving this much, so you need to adjust. And adjust downwards. Might have helped him with that. So an app that could be, I'd love to have an app that could help people with all those types of things for EDS, but then could be adjusted for other chronic illnesses. So the reason I do not want to drop a trace tonic, and I have not dropped one yet, is because as soon as I drop it, I'm going to have enough things. And the next section of the event is to use 2 trace tonics. So as soon as I drop a trace tonic, I will move on to as soon as I have the couple more slugs, we'll move on to this. And then I need to drop 2, and each one is a half an hour. So if I can avoid dropping the trace tonic until I get to there, because if not, we are guaranteed it's going to be an hour before I move through that. Yeah. Exactly. I think that there's a huge market there that's untapped and unmet. Yes, sometimes with these, planning can make a huge difference. That was a horrible cast. Sorry for blowing my nose, it's kind of stuff. Planning is totally key in some of these. And in the time it takes to get through. And it looks like this may be the last one, if I catch it. There we go. Totally get it. Wrong one. That one's down here. Let's see. It would be here. And drop it this. I'm checking something out quickly. So what I'm doing, actually, I'm going to be honest, is I'm jumping through Kid Kazma's stream to see what I told him. And it wasn't that stream, obviously. Yes, it was that. It almost had to be that stream. Oh, here we are. Just a minute.
Notice.
Oh, I know what it was. I knew that didn't didn't sound right. So what it was actually noticing someone's interest in you and being being completely oblivious. So shortly after, like a year or two after I met my first husband, or my second husband, we were at a friend's house, and whatever, and eventually we just got frustrated. I got frustrated with the friend and quit seeing him and whatever. And a while later, my husband and another friend told me that actually he had been hitting on me numerous times. And I was totally, completely oblivious to it. And I actually asked them why they hadn't told me. And they said that they were afraid I would kill the guy. I just completely not a clue. Not a clue in the world. I do not do the very subtle. Actually, it's kind of funny in our family. So in our family, very frequently, most of the assumptions about guys and girls are actually flipped. So my husband's the more touchy-feely, emotional, and I'm not putting him down. It's wonderful that he is. Let me make that very clear, because I'm not. I want to solve your problem for you. So you come to me with a problem, and I've had to work really hard on this, that when my kids come to me with a problem, I have to make sure if they are coming to me to solve the problem or just talk about it. Because otherwise, I will try to solve the problem for them. And so, very much, many of the things you hear about men are actually more about my personality. And so, yes, that we thought you might hurt him, and it wasn't just hurt. I mean, they were very clear that they knew I would not have been happy about it, and I would have made it obvious. So, and it's funny when you've got two guys telling you that the reason they didn't tell you is because they were afraid of what you would do. Which actually harks back to high school, when my husband says, because my husband and I actually went to the same high school. He dated my best friend in high school. And he told me that in high school, the reason I didn't have a lot of dates or things like that is all the guys were scared of me. I was a frickin' girl. Overweight, too, to be honest. Girl. And they were, obviously the guys were terrified of me. What? But obviously a lot of the guys were terrified of me. So my husband has no problem with me having whatever friends I have. He doesn't care if they're guys or girls or who. He knows, number one, I would never cheat on him. And number two, I'm way too oblivious to cheat on him. Well, I guess in this case I was even more intimidating than any other girl, or than most of the girls in the school. Something about the fact that I was not I would throw a fit if they opened up too many doors for me. I was not the, oh, I'm this little weakling, you have to do everything for me. And I made it very clear to anyone and everyone. If there were 2 sets of doors and you really wanted, you could open one of the 2 sets. But I was not going to have you open every set and pretend that women can't do anything. So I guess in some ways you could say I was very much a woman's rights, if a man can do it, a woman can do it too type person in Utah. Which in and of itself may not have been the best thing if I wanted dates. But at the same time, my friends who were, and I had a lot of friends who were guys, just accepted me as one of them, and it was never, whoever they were dating never felt they had to worry. If they were dating someone, there was no worry that, oh, you can't be friends with her. All of the women knew if you were dating him and I was friends with them, I wouldn't be cutting in. But it was just, so your thing about being oblivious, just, you can see why I was laughing and why I said, I'll have to tell you later my story, because it was just so funny for you to say that when I'm going, well, my husband and one of his best friends felt that I would kill the other guy if I knew, so they just didn't tell me anything because they figured that it was the only way to keep the guy safe. Of course. My thing is this, and I'll be completely honest. This is where the trouble comes in relationships. One, girls are stupid. They need to respect that relationship. If that relationship is respected and it's known no matter what, that relationship is expected and honored and respected, then the problem that people have between having friends of the opposite gender basically goes away. Because if there's no risk to a relationship caused by it, why have an issue with it? And I think that's one thing that a lot of women just and it drives me bats, a lot of women feel that they are always at risk in a relationship. And I think that therein lies a lot of problems in this world, is that women feel at risk in a relationship. It's expected of the woman to do most of the work to keep a relationship healthy. Well, that's never going to lead to a healthy relationship. It should be a relationship should be based on trust and respect on both sides of the relationship, from both the man and the woman. Each one of them should know that they can trust that other person to always be there for them, and that the person isn't just going to leave them because something better comes along. That they, etc. And so, and another thing is, and this is always part of it, I refuse to ever be best friends, in a relationship, which I'm in. Whenever I'm in a relationship, and this one's the last relationship I'll be in, of a romantic relationship, that's my best friend. My husband's my best friend, and that's the way it's always going to be. And he knew it too. So he knows it, and so he doesn't care if I have other friends. Honestly, he never gets on Twitch. I know tons of other people with how much time I spend on Twitch where their spouses would be, oh no, I have to be in there and watching what's going on and this and that, and complete trust, because he knows no one's ever going to come between me and him. And he also, as I said, he knows if someone were to start hitting on me on Twitch, I'll be honest, they wouldn't be in my channel for very long. And he knows it. There's no worry to him that anyone on Twitch is going to get between me and him. And so he doesn't care that he's never met any of you. And he doesn't even, as you've seen, take time to stop by very often. In fact, I created his account for him. And even then, a lot of times he's like, go ahead and turn it on your computer or whatever when you're on, just so that I can be supporting you. And he doesn't even care what's happening on it. So it kind of shows you the amount of trust there. He knows that there's both guys and gals in my chat, and that I'm good friends with them, and he's seen me watch you almost every night. I'm talking to you during my stream during the day, and then I get on and talk to you during your stream in the evening. And his level of worry about that is zilch. He enjoys that I'm having fun, and he supports me. And yeah, part of it's I can be way oblivious, but part of it's that trust is there. And he knows that it's there. And let's say down the road you get in a relationship. I would expect, don't care how good of a relationship we have, I would expect you to put that person primary in over and above the stream. Anyone in the stream or anything. because that's what relationships are. That's why yeah. Well, and he's told me part of the reason is he knows me well enough to know that when I said yes to him, that meant at that point, from that point on, there would never be anyone that I would allow to come between us. Not my ex, no one. And the only reason that I even have an ex, the same was true of my ex. But my ex started getting into porn, exposed the kids to it. I started realizing the treatment he was giving the kids and didn't agree with it. Realizing he was exposing the kids to porn under the age of 10. And a few things like that, and I just could not. I had to get out for the kids' sake. I might have stayed with it longer if it hadn't been for the kids, but the kids were the end deciding factor. After I got out, I started realizing the mental abuse that he was putting me through also, and had been our whole marriage. But that's the only reason and the only thing that came between us. And even then, my husband and I, we talk about the kids and how we are going to work together to help our stepkids and whatever. So it's not putting the kids at risk. When kids are young, that's the responsibility of the parents. And even then, I worked with them to try and be able to have a safe relationship with their father, often pushing them that way. And they know it, and they've been very appreciative of it. Their eyes were opened, but yeah. And it's exactly that. He realizes there's nothing to be jealous of. He knows he can come to me and say, hey, you know what? I need more time with you. Can you spend... And if he were to tell me he wants me to spend less time on Twitch or whatever, I would find, I would adjust when I'm on or things like that. There's a reason why at least one of my streams, I went, you know what, guys? I'm out of here. Bye. My husband needs me. He came in and just his behavior and everything, I could tell he needed me more than you guys did. Not that you guys need me, but I could tell he really needed some time with me. And so I got off. Even though I'd planned on being on longer. Because he is the most important of the two. Yeah. Well, and I think that's part of it. He knows that he knows that I put a priority on him over and above any of my other friends. And so, and I think that's part of it. is if you if you make it clear to them that your priority lies with them, there really isn't anything to get jealous of. But you have to, in your own mind, know that your priority is them. So that when you have to make the decision, your decision's already made. That they will always come over and above other things. And when they know that, it's very hard for jealousy to take place. Because they know that all they need to do is make it clear to you that there's a problem or that whatever, and you've already made your decision. You might see if there's a way you can work both out, but if not, they are the priority. And I hate to say this, but a lot of women say doing that makes them subservient in the relationship. Bull crap! Guys should be doing it too. And it doesn't mean you're whipped or the ball and chain or any of that. It means that you care about the other person enough to be concerned about how they feel. And that they are a priority to you because you care about them. And you care about them more than other people. Well, honestly, that's why you're in a relationship, or should be, is because you care about them more than because they're your best friend. You care about them and what they think and how they feel. And that's what relationships should be based on. Not any physical, oh, I'm attracted to you. Now, they can start out with dating because you're attracted to them. But to really get into a full relationship, it should be based on love and care and concern for the other person for who they are. Because otherwise, you're just going to, then if someone comes along who's more attractive, anyway, that's my soapbox for the day on that. But yeah, it also helps that I'm very oblivious and very literal. I just thought you'd think it where you were saying that you were oblivious to, I think it was someone hitting on you or something, that you'd think it was funny that I didn't even realize that day. It literally took them telling me a month or two later. And then when they told me, when I asked why they didn't tell me sooner, they were like, "We knew you well enough to know you would not be happy." despite what some people believe, I think everyone needs emotional connection in many different ways. I think people need emotional connection with friends, with family. But I also think that especially in a relationship, you need that emotional connection for it to work. Unless you have that emotional connection and you each work to keep that emotional connection, do whatever is needed to keep that connection. And what that means for each person varies significantly. So I'm not even going to try and... But yes, each individual needs emotional connections. And as for the body language seminar, I've tried. I think it's just I was oblivious to it because there was no way I was going to cheat. I was happily married, and so why should I care if someone's trying to hint to me that they want to spend time alone with me? And trying to create a strong emotional connection with me to the point. And here's the stupid thing. The guy was also married. And to me, it's just like, I've had times when I've known people are hitting on me in the past and either been cool with it. Yeah, he was married and I was married, and for some reason he thought it would be smart to hit on me. No, I don't think so. And I think that's why they said they knew I would have killed him, because so uncool. But I think that's also why I didn't pay any mind to it, and why I didn't register it, is it was not going to go anywhere. There was no way, no how it was going to go anywhere. If I hadn't been married and he was married, it still wouldn't have gone anywhere. With me being married and him not being married, it still would have gone nowhere. So it's kind of the fact that I just took that off my radar. Because in my mind, if you want to hit on me, I guess that's your right, but it's not like I'm gonna reciprocate the feelings. Other than in this case, I would have been upset. Very upset, because of some of the things that him and his wife either were going through or claimed they were going through. And yeah. The funny thing is, and I will say, the one kid I would have, of all my kids that I would have thought might have the hardest time developing a relationship with someone, because he's quiet and everything else, is the one that's married. And I'm grateful. His wife's amazing. She's, yeah. It was like, that works. Sounds good, Kid Kazma. I may get going soon. I have all week to finish this event, so I'm not worried. It's just the sooner I finish the event, the sooner we get back to story writing and art. So that's part of the reason I'm keeping it up and going. And because we were talking still. So if someone else jumps in and starts talking, I'll talk. If no one else does, I might go soon. The longer I stay talking, the longer I talk and do the event, the more of the event we get done, and the sooner we get back to writing and art streams. Well, actually, the relationship was already there, and that's the thing. That was why he didn't bother about telling me, is because he wasn't worried. He knew that there was no reason to even raise my awareness to it, because there was no risk. And with no risk, it kind of makes it that you don't need to, there was nothing to worry about, and so why bother about it? Why bother getting me frustrated with the guy and whatever else? He figured over time, one, I would either realize and kill the guy, or two, the guy would end up giving up and things would go whatever. From what I understand, him and his friend were kind of laughing about it as they, that was part of the reason there was no reason to tell me, is to them it was kind of funny because they're going, one, she doesn't even have a clue, and two, he's not going to get anywhere other than if she were to find out, he'd be in trouble. So let's just not tell her. And the thing is he did it right in front of my husband. And my husband's friend. And when I ask why they didn't step in and stop it, they're like, there was no worry. It's not like you would have even humored him in that. So, we just said, if we'd hinted towards it, you would have killed him. And so without bringing awareness to it, we just sat back. You said you had to go to work. I hope I'm not keeping you from work. Sounds good. That works. I was just worried that you were staying around because I kept talking.